All right, it is 5 o'clock. We are going to call the Administration Committee meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Chair Burning,
Present?
Vice Chair Counter,
Present.
Supervisor Long,
Present.
Supervisor Fiedler, Supervisor Shirley.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thanks, Amy. We would like to open this up, or now approval of minutes, please. Is there any additions, changes, subtractions, any additions, changes, or subtractions of the minutes? Any additions, changes, or subtractions? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider the minutes approved. Public comment. If you have public comment, please step up to the podium. Please state your name and address of where you reside. And Celeste.
My name is Celeste Cobrel. I live in the town of Hudson on Lake Malibu. We've had our home there for more than 30 years. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to just briefly go over an offer I've made to purchase St. Croix County interests in some 3 parcels. They're identified there as lots 1, lot 2, and lot 3 in an appraisal that was performed for the village of North Hudson. I just want to note that I am not talking about the trestle bridge. And I'm saying that because in the Community Development Committee meeting, when the agenda item was to address whether or not the county had any interest in possibly developing parks on the parcels for which I've made an offer, they only talked about the trestle bridge. They didn't talk about the parcels on which I've made an offer. So in any event, they're identified there. I've got the parcel ID numbers. The total appraisal for all 3 lots altogether, as is considered entirely unbuildable, is $61,000. And my offer does not include the dam or anything to do with operating the dam, as much as my husband would like to be the dam operator. I've been told that the DNR doesn't let us own dams. So anyway, let's see what the next one is. Whoops. This is just showing, based on what I've been able to figure out about percentages of ownership based on the appraisal, what would be the appraisal fair market value of the county's interests. I want to say in terms of Lot 3, I'm not actually sure the county has a 25% ownership interest. I looked it up on the GIS and it was kind of vague. So either it's owned entirely by the village, the city, and the town of Hudson, or maybe St. Croix County has an interest too, and it's my assumption that it's equal ownership. This slide is showing current uses of Lot 1. This is one where it's very clear that the county owns 50%, the city and the village of North Hudson each own 20%, and the town owns 10%. That's laid out in the transfer of the ownership of that property from Northern States Power, now Xcel Energy, in 1967. And that's how costs for operating and maintaining the dam are proportionally broken up. You can see that the public makes generous use of this area as a de facto public park. I go down there fairly often just, to kind of see what's going on and enjoy it. And these are photos that were taken on 3 different occasions in June and July, where you can see people fishing and swimming. This is Lot 2. This lot is owned entirely by the county. And again, this is a de facto public park. People are routinely using it for fishing and for accessing Lake Malibu to go swimming. This is Lot 3. This is the one that I think the county has a quarter ownership interest in. And again, this is routinely used as a de facto public park for access for fishing and swimming on Lake Malibu. The whole area, this just some more photos that are showing you that the whole area is, in practical terms, used as a public park now. If you decline to sell your interest, I would ask that as responsible property owners, that St. Croix County and all of the other governmental units do some minimal things in order to protect our public health and the water quality. And that would include installing some porta potties, because people are down there all the time, hundreds of people sometimes, and they're relieving themselves on the ground. That photo in the middle is a little pea spot in the road. And also, there is one 55-gallon drum with a little flip top on it for trash. It isn't sufficient. So there's a fair amount of littering. But given how much use there is, I'm actually surprised there isn't more litter. So people are trying to be considerate. If you do sell it, I want to purchase it for the purpose of preservation. The reason that I'm making this offer is because a developer has made an offer to the Village of North Hudson to purchase the property at the appraised value for the purpose of putting in a $16 million residential development that involves condominiums and single-family looking homes on the St. Croix River, despite the fact that the property is unbuildable, given that it's in a floodplain, the Lower St. Croix Riverway and the Conservancy zoning. But, you know, I mean, you're a developer. You take a shot, you make a gamble. I think it would be a shame if this property were lost. So I think also the purpose of preservation is consistent with all of the applicable existing law that applies to the property, and I'm also offering you more than double what he is. So I think I have a superior offer. And this very quickly, just an overview of how preservation is consistent with your St. Croix County Comprehensive Plan, with both in a number of ways, because it's an environmental corridor, because of the goals, and because of the number of objectives in the plan. It's also consistent with the existing and the so far draft Village of North Hudson Comprehensive Plan. It's again identified as a primary environmental corridor. It's identified as Conservancy District. It's also currently zoned Conservancy, and Conservancy allows preservation. It does not allow residential or commercial development. The preservation is consistent with the floodplain zoning. Most of the properties are in the flood zone of either AE or AE floodway, where again, you're really not supposed to be building commercial or residential, but preservation is a preferred use. It's also consistent with the Lower St. Croix County Riverway zoning. All or some of the portions are subject to Village of North Hudson Lower St. Croix Riverway zoning, and a number of the areas are also subject to slope preservation zone standards that are part of that zoning. So just in conclusion, preservation is the most consistent use of the property. If it is to be sold, please sell it for the purpose of preservation. I have a good offer on the table, and it's open until September 1st. Cash, quick close. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close that portion of the agenda, and we'll move on to our business items, financial report for June of 2025. Dustin.
Thank you, Chair. Financial reports are through June, so at this point, we're halfway through the budget year. So on our percent remaining, we're kind of looking at that 50% remaining for expenses and revenues. You'll notice towards the bottom of this, there's a 4,300 mental health services. That was just a coding error that's been fixed. So you'll see that drop off next month. If we move down to the admin report, tax report, we usually like to look at the sales tax received. You'll see a little bit of a dip in April. We are still on track for the year compared to the prior year. We're up 73,000 from last year. But again, we did see that pretty significant dip in April, so we'll kind of keep track of that, see what May brings. Any other questions on anything in the financials?
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to consideration of tax deed bids for the Village of Hammond.
Good evening. If you remember, I was here in May with these two properties to establish a value, to open up some bids on these two properties. Starting with the one in the Village of Hammond, there was the value, the minimum bid was set at $100,000. We did receive 12 bids that we opened this morning at our tax deed committee meeting. 3 of the bids were insufficient, and I've struck them out. The highest bid, they're in order of which we opened them, not highest to lowest or anything like that. I think the highest bid on this property was $185,000. And now it's up to you guys to select a winning or no winning bid at all.
So does anybody have a motion to bring one of the bids forward for acceptance? I have one sigh, and the rest are silent.
question?
Yep, go ahead, Supervisor Long.
Are any of the bids adjacent property owners?
No.
No, okay.
And this is a house, so it's a little bit different than the properties we typically see, you know, outlots, conservation easements. This is actually a house that's located at 950 Clark Street. So it's not likely that any of the bidders will be adjacent property owners unless they obviously own the house next door. So we did discuss that this morning at our tax deed committee, but none of these are adjacent property owners. And I think the recommendation from the tax deed committee would be to make a motion to accept the highest bid unless for some reason you think that's not appropriate or not in the best interest of the county.
Thank you for those words of wisdom. Yep, go ahead.
I'll move to accept the highest bid on this property.
Okay, there's a motion to accept the bid for $185,000 from Supervisor Long. Is there a second? Second by Shirley. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All right. Seeing no one seeking recognition, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. All right, next one.
Okay, similarly, we have a house that's located in the city of River Falls that was taken by the same process of in-rem tax foreclosure in September of 2024. We've had it cleaned. The realtor set a minimum, or he set a value at $119,000, and in May, you approved that. That was our minimum bid. We did receive 8 bids on this property, with the highest being $190,000. No adjacent property owners.
Good injection. Is there a motion to accept the highest bid on this? Motion by Supervisor Shirley, or go ahead, Supervisor Shirley.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the highest bid.
All right, there's a motion to accept the highest bid at $190,000. Is there a second on that motion? Second by Counter. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing no one seeking recognition, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion is approved unanimously. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Those are a lot less painful than some of the ones we've had in recent years, so that's nice to see. All right, number 4, consideration of offer to purchase county-owned property in the village of North Hudson. Do I turn that over to Administrator Witt or Corporation Counsel? Who wants the hot seat?
I think me.
Okay, Administrator Witt.
All right. To give you a little bit of background on how we got here to a citizen approaching us to purchase some property. A developer, Bruce Lenson, was looking to develop some property. He had purchased from the railroad the trestle property, which is just north of this. So he's looking to acquire additional lands to expand his development project. He's been working with a local group that's been wanting to put a park in there and sort of coordinating with them what he would build on for condominiums and residential housing and what he would develop as a park for the local municipalities. In discussions with the Village of North Hudson and the City of Hudson and us, all 3 of us are of the position, we really don't want another park to maintain. So we're not looking to develop any additional parkland. So nobody was willing to partner up on the park part of that idea. Bruce Lenson had made his offer to purchase to the Village of North Hudson. And did they reject that, Jason? Not yet. You can come up and interject if you want and correct me on anything here if I'm saying it wrong. So he had submitted that offer directly to the Village of North Hudson. What's the status with them?
So the Village of North Hudson will be considering it at their next meeting. They have been in communication with Bruce Lenzen though, and Bruce Lenzen, as of yesterday, is going to be moving forward with his application to rezone the property for the housing development that he would like to put in without the need for the extra land.
So the property that he's already purchased, he already owns, that he purchased from the railroad, which is north of here, that's what he's looking at developing. So he's just trying to acquire more land to make that development larger. So that was where the impetus of this came up. we have a citizen that came forward and wants to see it preserved. So she has made an offer of a higher value, saying that she'll preserve it. Really, at the end of the day, though, a couple of things. One is, it's not how we sell property. We don't just randomly entertain offers for property. If we're going to sell property, we put it out for bid, as you saw the last two properties that we sold, and we accept the highest bid then for it. And then two, really, if we're looking at preservation of this because of where the property is and for access to the dam that we're still going to have to maintain, the county's ownership and retention of it is probably in the best interest of preserving it and maintaining access to the dam for our maintenance efforts. So if I could have canceled this offer to purchase administratively, I would have done so. Our rules don't provide for that. Invest that authority with you. So I brought it forward to this committee for you to take action on.
Thank you, Administrator Witt. Are there any questions, or I would imagine that the administrator's recommendation is to not accept the offer. Okay, so is there a motion as such, or is there a different motion?
Could I ask a question?
You may ask a question, Supervisor Long.
So do we have any sense for where the North Hudson and the City of Hudson is at on their preference for these particular parcels? I would think that if we were to do anything, it would need to be in tandem with them.
So these properties are actually held as tenant in common. And so the county owns 50% of the property, the village owns 20, the city of Hudson owns 20, and the town owns 10. It's in the same ownership style as the dam. And I'm speaking generally in that because of the parcels involved there. The county acquired the properties in 1967 from the railroad. And to be honest with you, the meets and bounds for each property is very complicated because of the rail line going through the middle of them, the water on both sides of the point, and where the ordinary high water mark is. And so there would really need to be some title work done and some surveying to find out what is actually there to sell if there was interest in selling it. Both the city and the village are not opposed to selling it, but they would like to go through their normal land sale process in order to do so. But the county can sell your 50% of the share at any time, but then the village and city might be stuck with a new private landowner for the other 50%.
Another sigh. Any other questions before we entertain a motion? Supervisor Shirley.
Just a quick comment. At community development, we talked about this as well, and it was unanimous that we did not want to have a park property within a city or a village. So that was a pretty clear answer from the committee there that we didn't want to go down that road either. So.
Supervisor Long, you're recognized.
I do have a question for Celeste. So if you were to own this property and it was still maintained as a de facto park, it would be your park, and are you going to maintain that? You're going to have liability for that if the people are still using it? How are you envisioning that working?
Okay, so what I'm envisioning is I'm purchasing it for the purpose of preservation, and I did provide an outline of my preservation plan. And I just want to correct the record here. There are 3 separate parcels. The ownership divvying up that Mr. Cheeseth was just talking about only applies to what's called Lot 1. What's called, let me flip back here. What's called Lot 2 is a separate parcel that's entirely owned by the county, and what's called Lot 3 is the parcel that, I've looked this up on the GIS and the county's property ownership records, is owned jointly by the City of Hudson, Village of Hudson, and Town of Hudson, and possibly the county. It's unclear. So there are 3 separate parcels. I am not, so the way that I envision preservation is, first of all, get it surveyed and get it marked. it's kind of hard to tell where the edges are. Clean up the trash, work with guidance and consultation about which non-native invasives need to be removed and what needs to be done to restore native vegetation and restore the natural habitat, and then to maintain that. I have not, nor am I offering, to operate this as a park. I'm offering to preserve the property as is allowed under the zoning. I would need to determine what my liability risk exposure were if it were to continue to be open to the public. But there are, under the existing zoning, allowable uses that can be made available to the public, such as one of the uses that can be made with a conditional use permit is seasonal camping. So there's that possibility. But first of all, we have to find out what we've got. Is that responsive? Okay.
Concerned about, if the people are still using that property and it's owned by a private party, there's got to be liability there.
Oh, well, I'm assuming when you're talking about what I'm going to do with it, that I acquire all of the ownership interests, not just a partial interest. If I have a partial interest, I'd be basically stepping into the shoes of the county, except I'm excluding responsibility and liability for anything related to the dam. I just, as an aside, I have been told by another attorney that there are some statutory protections for private ownership of what is considered recreational land, but I haven't had a chance to dig into that very deeply yet. Any other questions?
Are there any other questions?
Okay,
No? Okay.
thank you.
Yep, thanks. All right. Is there a motion? Do we have a motion? I don't think we need a motion, but it will die. So is there a motion? All right, one last call for a motion. Okay. It doesn't need a motion? It needs something?
It doesn't have to have a motion. If you don't have a motion, what I'll do is I'll sit on this and it'll expire on September 1st, whatever the expiration date is of the offer.
I'll do a motion to deny the consideration of the offer to purchase.
Okay, there's a motion to deny the consideration of the purchase. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Long. And now discussion. Supervisor Counter.
So looking at the parcel and looking at the use of it there, being that it's in the protected waters for the St. Croix River, being that it's in floodplain, being its current uses, it just seems to make most sense that we would retain that property for future development. That does not mean that we have to develop a park or spend money or do anything with it other than maybe take the advice and talk with the village and the city about the porta potty issues if it becomes a, because that would be an environmental issue. But I think that selling it for any other purpose for development with all of the considerations that are going on around it, this would not be ideal in the situation that's there, just because of all those issues that are going on with it. So I would, for future, want to see it. If we were to sell it in the future, I guess I would, my preference would be to have it go to like a U.S. Fish and Wildlife, or go to the one of the local, you know, what is it, the Kinney, or, you know, there's several different organizations that own properties that do the maintenance and put them open to public uses. That would make much more sense for that type of thing, where they would be able to already have the insurance structures and the things that are necessary to maintain it as a for the public, but within a private name. So that would be, that would be the place I would feel more confident with. Nothing against your offer. Well, I totally I applaud you for what you're trying to do, but it's just a matter of, I think there's other ways that it might be better for the future, so.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any other public comment or any, my brain today. Is there any other comment? Any other comment? Any other comment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. All right, next up is number 5, resolution establishing library levy for 2026 budget.
I'll take this one.
All right,
So now's the time of year where we need to establish the library levy for the next year's budget. By statute, we have to pay 70%. Historically, St. Croix County has paid 100%. So the total, if you scroll down just a little bit, for out of county and in county is at 70% is $1,441,437, and at 100% it's $2,059,189. That is, at 100% it's an increase of about 190,000 from last year, so it is a significant increase. I guess people maybe are using libraries more and more, and residents don't have one in the county right now. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
and a little context on that too. The Hudson Area Library disbanded and became a municipal library, and this is really the first full cycle of that hit on the non-home. It'd be the town of Hudson, Village of North Hudson, and St. Joe. So they got hit with the rural circulation this year instead of a levy on their municipal taxes. So is there a motion to approve the resolution establishing library levy for 2026? Okay, there's a motion by Supervisor Counter to approve the resolution establishing library levy for the 2026 budget. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Long. Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, motion is approved unanimously. All right, next up is number 6, consideration of self-funded health plan design for 2026 employee health benefit plan. And I think I am turning this over to Audrey, but if not, I'm turning it over to Administrator Witt.
Actually, Leaf, benefit analyst from the HR department, Leaf.
My guy. There he is. Nice to see you, Leaf.
Nice to see you, Paul. Thank you, Chair. So every year, I come to talk about our health insurance plan. And so I'd use this opportunity today to actually, before I get to the renewal part, I wanted to talk a little bit about our clinic. I know I've heard you guys kind of asking in different meetings, how's the clinic doing? How's it working? So thought I would start there because that really is part of our our overall health insurance plan. So as you guys can see, this is kind of a timeline of where we were at over the last about 10 months or so. So back in September, you guys did provide that final approval through the KIP to build out the clinic downstairs. So we were kind of full speed ahead at that point. As of January 1st, the Reform Medicine, who was our chosen vendor, did start to see their first patients. They saw their first patients at their offsite location, which is located off of Exit 4. They were only open 2 days at this point, which is going to be an important part of the conversation as we start talking about return on investment and things like that, because it has been a slow build as far as capacity is concerned. So as I said, when they first started seeing patients in January, they were only open on Monday and Friday. On February 4th, they saw their first patients up at the New Richmond Services Center location. So the doctor from Hudson was now going up to New Richmond and seeing patients out of our facility up there. Starting on March 6th, they did add Thursday availability in Hudson. So now we're now up to Monday, Tuesday in New Richmond, Thursday in Hudson, and Friday in Hudson. May 28th was a really important day. That was actually the first day that they started seeing patients on site here at the government center downstairs. So they had moved all of their operations from their existing location down to our brand new government center space. And then we are expecting the final hours expansion sometime probably by the end of August, where they're going to add Tuesday and Wednesday service at Hudson. So then they'll be open 5 days a week at Hudson, 1 day per week up at New Richmond, and then they will also open the second Saturday of every month at Hudson as well. There we go. It magically changed. So when we talk about the clinic, and I sort of mentioned this last year when I was here talking about it, but really it's all about getting people in the door. The more people that we get in the door, the more value that we're going to get on the back end as it relates to our health insurance plan. And so I like to, and I also, when I was here a year ago, I did compare where we hope to be with Chippewa Falls Area School District. The reason I chose them is they are kind of the gold standard as it relates to these direct primary care clinics. They have had a direct primary care clinic dating back to 2017, and they were really one of the true early adopters of this model. So they're kind of who we like to compare ourselves to, right? And so they are also like to compare us to them because they have a lot of similarities to us. As far as they have this roughly the same amount of people on their health plan that we do here, they also have very similar location challenges that we do. So a lot of their staff actually lives in Eau Claire and commutes 20 minutes north to Chippewa Falls. It's about half of their staff. They also have an elementary school that's 20 minutes north of the clinic. So again, they're kind of very similarly spaced out if you compare New Richmond and Baldwin to here. So they're a really good match. So what you see here is actually on your screen right now is actually the clinic visits since their clinic was incepted. So really the first 6 months that their clinics were open, comparing St. Croix County to Chippewa Falls, really the consensus here is we're right on track. Like we're right where we kind of want to be. If anything, we're actually trending slightly better, in my opinion, than where Chippewa Falls is at as of month 6. But this is what we're going to be kind of very closely monitoring as we go forward. Because again, like I said, the more people we can get in the door, the better off it's going to be for the clinic as a whole and the health plan as a whole. So when we talk about return on investment, and I sort of alluded to this last year when I talked, but we really have two different kind of trains of thought as it relates to return on investment. One is direct claims avoidance. So if I go to the clinic, that's money that is not hitting our health plan because I'm not going to Hudson Physicians or Western Wisconsin Health or Westfield. It's staying in-house at the clinic. So they have that kind of direct or hard claims avoidance. There's also soft claims avoidance, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But as far as the direct claims, I actually put it to both of my vendors, both my broker as well as Reform Medicine, to say, show us where we're at. Where are we at for return on investment? So Reform Medicine, this is their version. And really, what's a little bit challenging about the clinic is that it just depends upon the way that you look at the data. And so it's a little bit hard to really kind of narrow down how exactly are we doing. So I thought it was important to show you guys, show the board both sides, and we can kind of talk about where we actually are by comparing both of the two different models. So this is Reform Medicine's model, and what they do is they look at the total charges that they have in the clinic and compare that to a local vendor. So they selected Western Wisconsin Health. So the first column, the one in green on the left, that is the total amount that was invoiced so far this year. So we've paid about $300,000 to the clinic for clinic operations, all of that fun stuff. The second column is that they took the published prices for Western Wisconsin Health. All these are on their website. And so they looked at, okay, if all of our staff had went to Western Wisconsin Health for all of the office visits, for all the labs, all the vaccines, how much would that have cost? And then they kind of compare those two of how much we would have saved. So if you kind of look at the very bottom right-hand corner, you see $50,959. That is where we're operating currently at a loss. That wasn't necessarily unexpected. We were expecting to lose money the first year. I actually take that somewhat as a positive that it could have been a lot worse. We're doing pretty good, all things considered. So then, like I said, I also put it to my broker, Alera Group, to kind of do this similar analysis. They take a similar approach, but a little bit different. So they actually look at all of our hard claims on the back end for all of those specific CPT codes. So all the different labs, all the different office visits. And then they kind of show how much the plan paid versus how much the employee paid to kind of get to an aggregate. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, that's going to be your total amount saved. So that would be the amount that we would subtract from that $300,000 on the last page. Now, the downside, oops, go back, not quite there, done yet. The problem with this analysis is that it doesn't include lab feeds, immunizations, or medications. Lab fees are a big part of this equation because if you go in and get a lab done, the actual lab itself, which is incorporated in this in the top part of this chart, is probably going to be the smaller component than the nurse, the syringe, all the lab supplies that were included as part of that draw. So I would say that the kind of the total savings here is probably a little understated compared to the one from reform, which I think was probably a little overstated. My hunch is I think we're probably somewhere in the middle between these two, if you had to ask my opinion on where we're at right now, 6 months in. All right, now you can move forward. So the other part of this is kind of the soft costs. So one of the things that is a little bit harder to measure is where is that claims avoidance kind of on a go-forward basis. So Reform Medicine, as an example, has a really good medical weight loss program. So Dr. Usher, who's the president and CEO, what used to be a former Mayo doctor in bariatrics, he brought all of that medical weight loss knowledge with him to Reform. And it's a really good, productive program. But so say that we have an employee who goes in, is pre-diabetic, goes through the weight loss program, loses a bunch of weight, and is no longer pre-diabetic. Well, now we saved all of those costs going forward because the employee didn't become diabetic. That's a little bit harder to measure around what is our actual claim savings. The other part where we can kind of monetize this a little bit is we work with a company called Aletheus. And what they do is they are care advocates. So what they do is they help our employees and their dependents find high-value health care. So they find a provider that provides a high quality of care, but at a cost-efficient price. To kind of give you a real-life example, let's just say I need to go in for an MRI. I could go down the street to one of the providers along, right along Carmichael here. That MRI might be $2,200, $2,500 by the time I get out the door. If you go through Aletheus, they'll send you to a place where that very same MRI might be $600, $700. So again, we're getting a lot of claim savings by routing people through there. And where the clinic really comes into this is anytime that an employee needs to seek care outside of the walls of the clinic, they are helping steer that employee to those high-value providers. So again, it's a little bit harder to measure what that claim savings is. Like, is that person going to go to Hudson? Is that person going to go to Westfield? All of those costs are a little bit different. But Aletheus, the way they do this is that they take the state average versus what the actual procedure was at their high-value provider, and they kind of subtract those, and that's our savings. And so with the chart that you're looking at right now, the lines are our total utilization of Aletheus from 2024, which is the line on the bottom, versus 2025, which is the line on the top. As you can tell, we've had really marked increase in the utilization of Aletheus since the clinic went into place. And really that's because all of the care that is needed outside is routing through Aletheus, so we're saving money on the back end. And so that's where a lot of those bar charts are also showing that sort of calculated savings. So you can tell by where we are here at the end of June, technically, according to Aletheus's data, we saved about $100,000 worth of claims compared to about $75,000 last year. So again, you track this out the rest of the year, we're going to have a substantial amount of savings by the end of the year. So I'm going to kind of pause here. Did you guys have any questions on the clinic before I kind of move on to the
Any
health
questions
plan?
for Leaf at this point? Okay,
Cool.
you can proceed.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the health plan renewal. So whenever I talk to new hires, I like to sort of position that in a perfect year for me as the benefits analyst, the amount that we've taken in premiums is equal to the amount that we've paid out in claims. So in a self-insured health plan, that's ultimately the goal. During renewal is when we sort of realign that if it's out of alignment. And so this year we had claims were projected for a 7.2% increase on the top line. That included both the employee and the employer costs. So we really needed to get ourselves back into alignment. And so we do that primarily through plan design changes and other things. So a couple of things I want to highlight related to that 7.2% is that all the analysis is based on claims experience from April 23 through March of 25. The reason I want to highlight that is obviously when we went through this process last year, we had a whole bunch of stuff that we kind of threw against the wall, hoping it would stick to kind of decrease all those claims costs. But we've really only got about 3 months of data on that. So that isn't necessarily fully panned out. It will pan out next year, but we haven't necessarily panned out so far this year. Also, based on what I talked about before, we kept the on-site clinic cost neutral effectively. So what we're seeing with the clinic is that based upon the data so far, we felt very comfortable keeping the analysis that it was not going to cost us any more money, but it was also not necessarily going to be saving us any money. Now, hopefully, now that the clinic's on site, we start seeing more utilization. Maybe that message will change more over the next 6 months. But again, we have to go based upon what we know at this current moment. This also includes a projected 20% increase to our stop loss premiums for next year. This year, we took our stop loss insurance out to bid, and we got a really good bid back from Health Partners. Now, we are fully expecting that they gave us, kind of the sweetheart, get you in the door kind of deal, and we're anticipating getting slammed next year. So we're kind of building in that slamming part next year into our calculation. It also reflects a shift of employer cost share from 90% to 89%. Given that the sheriff's union contract allowed us to decrease that, we're going to take some advantage of that in order to meet our goals. Just to kind of give you guys a little bit of perspective, the average increase across all self-insured plans is anywhere from 6 to 10%. Given that we're at 7.2%, we're pretty much right in line with what we would have expected. Now, the county board did give us a target increase of 2%, so we had to bring that 7.2% down to 2%, and that's what I'm going to kind of outline how we kind of got there. So here are some of the changes that we are proposing for the traditional plan next year. A lot of these changes were really targeted around where we're seeing claims expense. So particularly, we continue to have high-cost claimants on the plan, so we want to kind of address that. That's why we're raising the max out-of-pocket on the medical side. We are also seeing an increase in pharmacy spend, which is not unexpected. We were kind of a little slow to that game, but we are increasing the pharmacy out-of-pocket maximums as well as the specialty caps per fill. So we're moving from $150 to $250 per month, as well as increasing that pharmacy maximum. The copays are also increasing. Again, this is also targeted because we do want to continue to direct people towards the clinic. So this was very intentional, especially around office visits and specialists. We want to make sure that people are seeking care at the clinic first before going out to see the specialist if it isn't necessary, because we see a lot of specialist referrals that aren't necessarily necessary. Kind of along that same path, whoops, go back up. I want to talk about ER for a second. We are also increasing the ER copay. We continue to see a trend that a lot of our claims with ER visits are office visit treatable. So people are going to the ER, but they could be treated in the office visit. Again, we're raising the copays to hopefully try and address some of that as well. All right, now you can go. High deductible plan, the changes are a little bit less. We are increasing the deductibles and max out-of-pockets. Along with those increases, we are proposing that we increase the county's HSA contribution from $500 to $600 for single and $1,000 to $1,200 for family, kind of to compensate for that increase in the deductible. So all of those plan design changes result in the premiums that you see listed here. As a result, or as a reminder, this is an 89% cost share versus a 90% cost share. In the dental plan, we are looking to propose moving to a 50-50 premium share. As over the last couple of years, we have been closely benchmarking our medical and dental plans, comparing to our neighbors, Polk, Pierce, and Dunn. And really, these moves were intended to really kind of more closely align to the market and closely align to our neighboring counties. So it has been part of a multi-year plan to increase the employer contribution share. So a couple years ago, we paid 25% of the premiums. This year, we paid 40%. And next year, we're proposing that we go to 50%, and that's where it will stay. We won't have the final rates until a little bit later, but Ken has planned for a 10% increase along with the 50%, the move to 50% for next year. Hopefully, it'll come in a little bit less. That's what I'm hoping for. So in summary, the way that what we are asking for today is that I would like you guys to approve the health plan design as it is. All that's kind of listed on this PowerPoint. All of these changes will bring the county's projected cost down from that 7.2% down to 2.8%. So that was where we thought was going to be the best, so as to not impact employees' pocketbooks too much. That's what I got.
Any questions? Supervisor Shirley.
Have you gotten any feedback on the employees that are taking advantage of the clinic on site?
Very positive. They didn't like the old location. That was kind of the piece of feedback, but they do like the new location. I've heard very little negative feedback in any form or fashion. Almost all the positive feedback has been super positive.
Go ahead, Supervisor Counter.
If we're on the clinic, a couple back questions I thought about after the fact.
For sure.
Is this kind of a walk-in, or do they have to set appointments? And if so, how is the wait times for getting time, if they do walk in to be able to get service?
So they have to make appointments in advance. However, with the way that they model their clinic, they actually reserve a number of appointments within the provider's schedule for same day or next day appointments. So they function a little bit differently than say if you were to go to Hudson Physicians or Western Wisconsin Health, where their goal is to schedule their providers in 15-minute intervals. They intentionally leave blocks of their schedule open so that they can handle those same or next day appointments.
They also have a telemedicine option.
As well. So that is one of the advantages with Reform Medicine, is that even if you can't necessarily get in Hudson, as long as one of their other clinics is open, you can see a doctor telephonically through there at any point.
I think one of the thoughts was, if you're trying to avoid the emergency room visits, that if they do come in, that they would be able to get service then.
Yep, and that we have it built into our contract that they have to guarantee, that they basically guarantee same and next day appointments at the Hudson location. We've also staggered the time, so this isn't necessarily 8 to 5 every day. There are some days that are earlier, some days that are later, to kind of help accommodate some of those kind of after school and after work needs.
Then the last part on that, have you done any type of needs analysis by location to see, because you've got, you're operating in Richmond, you're operating here. Have you gotten any feedback from the locations as far as, hey, we don't have enough time, one day a week, or isn't making it work for us? Or have you worked on that to get any feedback?
So every month I do get updates around how much is utilized at each of our locations. I can tell you through these first 6 months that the New Richmond Clinic has been very, very busy. I think not the last month, but would be May and April. They had like 32 and 39 appointments, and they only had 40 total throughout the month that they could have been scheduled. So they have been really busy up at New Richmond. I think a lot of that is because they are on site, not necessarily near site. One of the biggest questions that we sort of have going forward is that dynamic going to change now that they are on site here at Hudson? So we are kind of closely monitoring that. That is sort of the one thing to make sure that we have capacity. One of the other questions is, what does the clinic look like next year up at New Richmond? Again, we only had it contracted through the end of this year. We may need to look at that for next year based on demand. But again, we're going to kind of see how the next 6 months kind of play out to make sure that it's continuing to be used up there.
Go ahead, Supervisor Shirley.
I know what I was gonna ask. So right now, our traditional plan, a majority of our employees are on the traditional plan versus the high deductible, correct?
It's about a 65-35 split. So we have about 65% on the traditional plan, about 35% on the high deductible plan.
So with the 26 projections, are you assuming that same, or are you thinking that that's gonna switch a little bit?
I think with the changes and with the fact that the clinic is now up and running, I think there's going to be a little bit more of a migration to the high deductible plan. I don't know exactly how much. I don't have a crystal ball, but
But with the 2.8% increase, are you assuming the same numbers, or are you thinking that we're gonna get a 5% swing one way or another?
Yeah, so our premiums are based upon the HSA plan, that's the lowest cost plan. So we pay for 2026, 89% of the lowest cost plan. So the traditional plan has a larger increase because they pay the difference then. So that will force more people, persuade more people to switch over to the HSA plan. So yeah, it'll increase. I give you the exact percentage, but I'd be wrong. But
I guess where I was going with it was, is our 2.8% increase going to be less than that if we get a higher percentage of people that switch?
so it's really based on claims at the end of the day. It doesn't really, because the county is putting in a set amount, kind of like Ken said, that whether it's you're on the traditional plan or you're on the high deductible plan, the county's putting in the same amount every single paycheck. So really, as far as the renewal next year, it really just boils down to how claims are. So it maybe, it depends on how, it all depends on how the clinic does and if we have any, if we keep getting slammed with high cost claimants, so.
Are there any other questions? Yep. Supervisor Long.
Yeah, I had the same question as Supervisor Shirley, but I just want to say thank you for your work on this. It was really good, very detailed and very understandable. So thank you.
All right, I think Supervisor Long summed it up, but does anybody else have any questions for Leaf? Okay, and with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the plan as presented. Okay, got a motion by Supervisor Long to accept the 2026 health insurance plan. I think that's what it should say. Yes, employee health benefit plan. Is there a second? Second to that motion, is there a second? Second by Fiedler. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion is approved unanimously. All right, thank you, Leaf. All right, so now we're on to number 7, resolution to participate in the State of Wisconsin Department of Employee Trust Funds Public Employers Group Income Continuation Insurance Program. What are you guys doing to me today? All right, Audrey.
All right, so as part of our benefit plan, we also provide long-term disability, which is an employer-sponsored benefit. So currently, we're paying around $97,000 in premiums as the employer to provide that benefit to our employees. And the LTD benefit pays out on day 90 currently. So after 90 days of disability, if you continue to have to be off work due to a disability, you'd start receiving about 60% of your income. So we would like to change vendors to go with the employee trust funds, and it's an income continuation insurance program that actually provides a little bit better of a benefit. Benefit begins on day 30 instead of day 90, and it pays 75% of your wages versus 60% of your wages. The best part about it is that they are on a premium holiday and have been since 2012. And premium holiday means that we would acquire that benefit for free. So no premium no premiums for the employer or the employee. So as long as the premium holiday remains in place, which we can't guarantee forever, but as long as it remains in place, we'll maintain a free benefit throughout that period of time. So it would result in a $95,000 savings. It is gonna, the reason currently we're paying around $97,000 in premiums for Unum. LTD benefit, we only save 95,000. That's because our basic life insurance benefit also through Unum, they're going to increase our rates on that since we're dropping the LTD benefit. So that'll cost us $3,000, $2,000, sorry. But overall, better benefit for the employees and cost savings for the county. But we need a resolution to the ETF in order to enroll in that
There's
benefit.
the catch.
or
I was looking
ask
for the
them.
catch.
Yes, that's why we are here today to
All right.
ask for this.
So is there a motion to to accept the participation in the state of Wisconsin? Approve the participation in the state of Wisconsin Department of Employee Trust Fund Public Employers Group Income Continuance Insurance Program.
I'll move that we accept what you just described.
Sir, motion by Fiedler. Is there a second? Second by Shirley. Discussion. Supervisor Long.
I want to know where I can get a premium holiday.
There it is. All right. Is there any other discussion? Supervisor Counter.
Just with something like this, is this obligate the county then to be on a contractually locked contract, or are you free to, if, say, the holiday goes over and, oh, by the way, now it's going to be 3 times what we were paying before,
Right.
do you have the option to shop then afterwards, or are you under a long-term contract?
No, I'm trying to think of what the minimum contract was, but I think it's either a 30-day or 90-day notice to drop the enrollment. The only thing is they don't decide on premium holidays until every October. We start open enrollment in November. So if they were to decide in October that they're going to get rid of that, we would probably continue with them for the following calendar year since we already have benefits out and done. So we'd have 1 year at their rates, which are similar to Unum's, a little bit more, our current provider, a little bit more expensive, and then we would go out to market.
Sure. Then the second question on that, with doing under the new program, is it tax you with additional administrative issues that you have to deal with? Or are you going to be able mostly leave? Well, the deal that
He said
the only
he's not
reason I
busy.
ask is, yeah. The only reason I ask is if if this takes a lot to administer or something, is there a big difference in that? Or can you handle that in shop without dealing with more employees?
He's dying a little inside. No,
I'm sorry.
it'll be fine. We've talked about it. It is going to result in, as of how they run the program currently, they require paper applications for every employee to be turned in. We have an electronic enrollment system right now. Obviously, that's a lot easier for employees to go in to select their benefits. We now have to track down every employee, have them fill out the piece of paper, sign it, fax it, and keep track of it in our system. So yes, administratively burdensome, absolutely. Is it worth the $100,000 savings? I think so. We won't have to hire more help to do it. We'll figure it out in the HR office. And we are crossing our fingers. ETF just got done with a big system upgrade. So we're waiting to turn in our application for this for further guidance to see that hopefully maybe they're getting rid of paper applications or at least allowing for electronic signatures. We're working with our IT program to streamline the process as much as we can. So we'll make it work with everything we have at hand.
I don't have an appetite hearing facsimile
I know.
paper applications. My goodness. Yeah. And so just to feed off of what Supervisor Counter was saying, do they have to require a wet signature on a facsimile? I mean, or do we have something inside of Oracle that allows for electronic signatures that have a certificate or something that we could include in our benefits?
If they'll allow for an electronic signature, not within Oracle, but Ryan Sandy, he's our IT, HRIS, ERP system analyst. He's been working with me to develop so that we can pre-populate the
Yeah,
forms,
totally.
allow for an electronic signature. So as long as ETF will accept that, that would be the route that we're going to go.
I just remember when the ancient Egyptians invented papyrus, and that was cool. But yeah, no, that'd be awesome if we could make that happen.
Yeah. So we're looking into all of it.
Totally. Sweet. All right, awesome. Any other discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Resolution is approved unanimously. All right, thank you for your work on that. Number 8, resolution amending personnel policies, expense reimbursement, and personal leave of absence. And Audrey.
Okay. So for the meal reimbursements, instead of changing the per diem rates every year as inflation comes around, we thought let's just set the standard at the Federal General Services Administration rate, or the GSA per diem rates for the state of Wisconsin. And employees can always find those rates online, so we just updated the language within there to match that. The personal leave of absence policy, we just updated a definition of what active pay status is, and it really is related to benefits. So when you're on a personal leave of absence, there is no guarantee to keep your benefits active. And so we really needed to define for employees and for ourselves in HR, when is that date where you are no longer considered an actively paid employee, which matches our plan descriptions to say that at that point you are no longer eligible for benefits, or at least the premium from the employer side, and you would therefore go on COBRA benefits instead. So that's the main change there, just to provide some clarity.
All right, is there a motion to approve this? Anybody? Is there a motion to approve? Okay, got a motion to approve resolution amending personnel policies, expense reimbursement policy, and personal leave of absence policy. Is there a second to that motion? By Supervisor Fiedler. Second by Long. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Any discussion?
Under the GSA method of doing it, do they work on regional, or is it basically just a complete state format?
We decided to do the state format. So it does state, even if you look up the state, it currently shows different cities in there as well, but we defined in the policy that it is the state rate regardless of where you are. So even if you're out of state traveling, you're still going to use the Wisconsin state rate that's listed.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Resolution is approved unanimously. All right, number 9, resolution amending fund balance policy. Administrator Witt, I'll turn this over to you.
Yeah, I'm actually going to let Dustin handle this one.
Thank you. And Administrator Witt had, last month, I believe we had a little heads up on this, that it was coming. So this is, we haven't, as you can see, we haven't revised the policy since 2017. So there's a lot of copy changes in here. And then 2017 is pre our ERP system. So we had some fund accounts and names that we had updated as well. Besides the copy changes, the other big change is when we were doing our bond issuance with Moody, one of the things they explained that we could possibly get a higher rating was if we increase our fund balance policy. So we looked at doing that in here, and so the change was to change it from plus or minus 3% to instead plus or minus 5%, and then instead of at 35%, increase it to 45% with that goal to get to the 50% that Moody's had recommended. So that's really the big change in the policy. If you have any questions, Ken can probably answer them better than I can.
Are there any questions before bringing this forward? Supervisor Counter.
Where do we currently, I'll ask you right now where we're currently at. Are we sitting close to that 45, or where are we at?
Yeah, I haven't gotten the audit report for confirmation of where we're at. We'll get that here at the end of July. My guess is we're probably sitting right around 45% though. Generally, every August we hit in that 40 range, in that mid 40 range, 42 to 48. And then we do a resolution, we bring it back down to 38%, the plus 3 of the 35. And so I think we're going to be right there in that. So with this policy change, we'd probably go 1 year without reallocating money out. And then next year at this time, we'd be over the 50%, so we'd do a reallocation then. The pros to that are Moody's would think favorably of having the higher fund balance. They like to see us over 50%. And then two, having more cash kept and reserved means I have more money that's in the investment account and I earn interest on that. Those are the pros on it. The cons on it are we're holding that money and we're going to have a year that we're not reallocating. So we don't have a strong recommendation one way or the other. This was Moody's recommendation, and we needed to clean up this policy anyways, so we're bringing it forward for your consideration.
With that in mind, without doing the reallocation of funds this year, how will that impact like the KIP and some of those things? Are we going to be, are we going to be running a deficit on that then for?
No, I think we're going to be fine. We had taken a lot of the extra ARPA dollars that we had and put that into the KIP. So the KIP's actually pretty healthy right now. So I don't have a concern with a one-year delay on reallocating funds to it. I think we'll be okay.
Go ahead, Supervisor Shirley.
Remind me if I'm incorrect, but I thought when we brought this forward last month or the month before, our recommendation was to leave it where it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was a voting agenda item. And so I know I took that into consideration, and that's why we're making sure we spell it out that this was the draft. Please change it if you want to change it. And like I said, I mean, we're not suggesting that you have to change it. We're not trying to strong arm you into changing it. We're just providing the recommendations that Moody had for us.
Mr. Chair?
He's still on.
I'm okay with changing the 3% to 5%, but I think we should stay at the 35%. You know, as we talked about before, the amount of savings that we're going to get on the interest rate doesn't make it viable to go to 45% or even like later to go to 50% to get the bond rating difference. It's just the numbers aren't there. So I'd be okay with 5% and stay at plus or minus 5% with 35% rather than the 45.
Okay, Supervisor Fiedler, and then if it is pertaining to this, then we're gonna, after this, we're gonna entertain it. I want a motion before any further discussion, but go right ahead, Supervisor Fiedler.
Well, I was just going to concur with the thoughts of Supervisor Shirley, and I think we should adopt everything but the change from 35 to 45, and but encourage the administrator to come back to us periodically with other recommendations, because I know there's some other options that he could consider on this. We shouldn't be sending a totally no answer on this if we happen to vote that way, but to bring it back later with other options at his discretion.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we're going to entertain a motion to approve at some point in time, possibly with an amendment following that. So that's what I'll entertain at this time.
I would make a motion to amend the draft, retaining the 35% plus 3 or minus 3%.
I believe what Supervisor Long wanted to motion is a motion to approve the resolution with the amendment to change everything except for the 45%. That should remain at 35%.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So it remains at 35%. Everything else is approved. Okay, that's the,
Yep. No, Supervisor Long wants it at 3% still. Yep.
okay, so can you spell that out one more time, since there were like 7 people minus 4 that talked?
Yes, and that was my mistake. A motion to approve the resolution amending the fund balance policy except for page 4 of 9 regarding 3% to 5% and 35% to 45%. Those will remain as the initial policy was written.
All right, there is a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Fiedler. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none from my colleagues, I'll just say one other thing. Just reminder to everyone here and anyone listening that there is more to it than just the general fund being adjusted for Moody's to change. And this change would have to be over a long period of time, along with other factors, population, debt ratio to income and population and all that. So I agree wholeheartedly with Supervisor Long and how you made this motion. So I got to call for discussion again. Gosh darn. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those are in favor of the resolution as presented by Supervisor Long, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That is approved unanimously with the two changes. All right. All right, come on, computer. Here we go. All right, well, number 10, resolution delegating authority to enter into settlement agreements with opioid defendants to the designated St. Croix County officers. Administrator and Corp Counsel, Heather.
Correct. So I know you are all just happy to see another resolution regarding the opioid settlements and the opioid litigation. This particular resolution will delegate authority to the county administrator to enter into settlement agreements with various defendants after providing notice to the county board chair of the settlement offer and terms. What this means for the county board is that you will not have to have a resolution come before you every time there's a settlement agreement that is presented to the county by our attorneys that are handling the opioid litigation. This will allow the county administrator to enter into those settlement agreements after discussing the terms with the county board chair. This will streamline processes so we don't have to bring these resolutions back to you every month or every other month.
Thank you, Jesus. All right, so we'll entertain a motion to approve this resolution. Is there a motion? Go ahead, Supervisor Shirley.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution delegating authority to enter into the settlement agreements with opioid defendants designated to the administrator.
You mean St. Croix County officers?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So there's a motion. Is there a second to that motion by Shirley? Second by Long. Is there a discussion? Supervisor Counter.
So with this, the way you're doing it, would that basically take the county board so that they're not notified as to, or have access to the information as these things come about, or how would that?
Well, you'd still have access to the information, obviously. Usually when we're at this stage and we're authorizing the settlement agreements, we don't have all the details anyways. Where you really have more of the details is once we get the settlement dollar amounts. I can't spend the money until I come back to the county board. So we either come back with a special resolution to authorize spending of those settlement dollars, or we build it into the budget process and we spell that out in the budget. But those are the two ways that you then get really the additional information on that. So the dollar amounts are probably really the bigger part of it rather than the authority to sign the agreements on the front end. Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say no. Resolution is approved unanimously. Number 11, discuss updating county board supervisor per diem rates. Do you want to take this, Administrator Witt, or?
Yeah, well, I'll just give you the history on it. So we haven't increased rates since 2016, so it's been about 10 years. In order to change the compensation levels for the elected officials, the county board, it has to be done before nomination papers are circulated. So before December 1st of this year, you'd have to do it to be effective for the next term then. So you always have to set the rates for your successors, not for yourself. And so I had put together a spreadsheet of the data that shows where all the other counties are. I have a basic recommendation of where I think we can make some adjustments to that. And the compensation, this is the existing policy. You can see where we're currently at. So this isn't a voting item to accept these rates. It's really just a discussion of whether you want to take this up again before we get to the deadline in December, because this is your window of opportunity to review the item.
All right, so this is a discussion-only item. There will be no vote taken. Or is there any discussion on this item? Any changes you want to make, Supervisor Long?
So I know this came up before, and I was kind of adamantly against it, but there are probably a couple things that we might want to consider. I can see for a county board or supervisors for a county board meeting, increasing that to maybe $100. There is preparation involved, and so there is time involved, so that would be, we might consider, as well as possibly additional compensation for chairing a meeting, because again, there is preparation in that. So that seems fairly logical. As far as the officers, I'm really struggling with number one. You know, I'll be very honest and transparent. You know, I got a W-2 from St. Croix County last year for like 12 grand. And that doesn't count reimbursements I got from Northwood Technical College and Chippewa Valley Technical College. So it's, you know, it's a part-time job, but you're not there to make money. It's just to help compensate you for some of your time, but I don't think that the increase really is warranted. So I would not be in favor of that. I would refer to Supervisor Fiedler for the vice chair change, but so a couple of the other small adjustments I think I can handle, but I'm definitely having difficulty with the chair.
Go ahead, Supervisor
Finally,
Fiedler.
I think I would agree with Chairman Long. I think that the first two are just fine the way they are. And I think we do have to consider raising the per diem for supervisors for attending meetings, because I think we exclude perhaps some people who would very much like to throw their hat in the ring and become a supervisor. But at the rates we're paying now, we exclude a lot of people, and that extra $25 or $50 that the administrator is recommending, I think could make a difference to a lot of people considering whether they would run. So I don't think there's any need to change the top positions of chair and vice chair, but I would think we should think thoughtfully about the other positions being eligible for an increase.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this? Brian? Supervisor Shirley?
I hate to say this because it's there's some committees that are different than others, but you know, having a county board meeting at a different rate than a committee meeting, I would say we do the same for both. I mean, you know, for myself with community development, we have 4-hour meetings, probably 3-hour meetings. So for 75 is a little on the light side, if I would a little selfishly say, but I would say that, you know, if we were going to change them all to the 125, it would make the most sense to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in here, and I brought this up with Administrator Witt mostly because there's so much work that's gone on in the county, especially at the committee level. I mean, if you look back at 2020 and Health and Human Services and how much time, energy, and effort they put in through their committee, and then you look at public protection and the things that you guys have had on your agendas. Your agendas are not 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Admins, we've had our share. And if you look at the committees of the whole, those are not meetings where we all just sit down and go, oh, kumbaya, let's just pass whatever's presented to us. I mean, you've got 19 very diverse viewpoints in this, whether we're serving on this board next year or not, the next group of elected officials deserve to be compensated for the amount of time, if not for the time that a lot of us put into it, hopefully for the amount of time that they want to put into it. So, I mean, and now I look at, like, my whole point is to get to community development and the amount of time that they've put in the last year. We're talking, what, lots of 3.5-hour meetings, plus the prep going into it, plus the meetings with constituents. So this isn't just something that you show up to a meeting and you sit down and you vote yes or no. If you're a good supervisor, you put your homework in, you talk to, you know, your administrator or the key players that you need to help make a decision, and you listen to your neighbors and they give you feedback on what they want. And if you're not doing that, well, yeah, you certainly don't deserve that dollar amount. But anybody that is doing that is going above and beyond even what that dollar amount that's presented is. So I think it's nominal. I would say keep the chair and the vice chair as presented. That's what I would recommend. And I don't know, the only one we haven't heard from is my friend from Star Prairie area, but I'd like to hear his thoughts on 1 and 2. But I think, yeah, when you're the guy and you're on call and the administrator needs a signature on an emergency declaration, as we saw in like 2020 and 2021, yeah, I think that deserves something considering where the prices of everything are and putting your life on hold. So I'm going to put you on the spot there, Supervisor Counter. I'd like to hear your opinion, please. Spotlight.
Yeah, this one's kind of hard. I've went from being on the town board where you're making about $900 a month as a chair, and I think it was $450 a month as a supervisor. That's in the town of Star Prairie. I don't know what I haven't followed with any of the other ones too. But yeah, they do, but there's a lot of work that they have too when they're doing it. I mean, they don't have staff. So a lot of things are done individually. Looking at it, it's probably time to catch up a little bit. There is a lot of investment. I know typically for me, I spend anywhere from 4 to 16 hours preparing for community development meetings at times. By the time some of those community development packages are over 400 pages occasionally. It's a lot of work to go through and to ensure that you have a comprehensive understanding of what you're trying to approve and where it's at. And I have to say the staff does an excellent job putting it together. It's just to do due diligence, though, you're making that decision. So you have to review it and do it properly. So there is a lot of investment in time. These meetings have sometimes become taxing too a little bit for preparation, but not the same as community development. So yes, I think we're at a point that we can look at doing increases. I'm not familiar with all the ins and outs of what the chair and the vice chair have to do. So as far as how much time they have to dedicate in, so I don't really have much comment for that other than following what they believe. But as far as on the others, yeah, it's probably time we do a consideration anyway. I'm not exactly sure how much, but yeah, where we're currently at seems a little tight for how much investment is in them. Go ahead.
Supervisor Shirley.
Administrator Witt, do you have an idea? I think I know the answer, but do you know comparatively across counties in our area, where we're at?
Yep. Can't you read that? Oh, okay. Yeah. I look at it not necessarily based upon geography. I sorted this by population because it's probably more reflective. So it's all over the board. People do it differently, and we haven't changed ours in 10 years. So you don't know whether some of these have changed theirs a year ago or if they were 10 years old also. It's not uncommon for elected bodies to go a long time in between these changes. But at some point, they become so outdated, it's like, okay, we should probably update this.
Continue. I think I've seen this chart before, but looking at that, if you look towards the right side there, all the population centers that are larger than us all have salaries for their board members. So I know it's uncomfortable and it's, to vote for an increase for yourself if you happen to win election, but on the other hand, where I think we're so far behind where everybody else is, and, jumping from $75 to a meeting to $125, given our total budget for the county is a minuscule amount compared to everything else that we deal with, so.
Supervisor Long.
I was just going to suggest maybe, a compromise would be to increase all meetings, not just board meetings, but committee meetings from 75 to 100, and then increase the additional compensation for a chair from 25 to 50. It's fairly nominal, but at least it's might be a reasonable compromise. It's a suggestion.
Mr. Chair, a question?
Yes, go
I
ahead.
think you mentioned this was just for discussion tonight?
Yes.
I would just ask, what would our next step be? We're going to maybe give guidance to the administrator to come back to us next month, for example, and it would be a voting item, perhaps, or in September, and then the board would have it on its agenda sometime prior to the budget for next year, and we would proceed along those lines.
Yeah, it's just got to be voted on before papers can be taken out. So it's got to be completed by the November county board meeting.
So, I mean, whatever we acted on, we'd want to have into that budget so that the administrator would.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, if you guys are interested, which, I mean, it seems like there's not consensus on what the change is, but there's consensus that it's time to update the numbers. So I'll put together a resolution, and I'll just use my own numbers because you guys can't agree right now anyways. So you can then amend it next month at the admin committee, and that resolution would go forward to the county board then on whatever you guys settle on.
That sounds great. All right. All right, with that, we'll consider that business item over and on to requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests for future agenda items? Any requests for future agenda items? All right, hearing none. Announcements? Anyone got any cool announcements? Anything fun? Nothing? Almost preseason for football?
St. Croix County Fair is starting this week, Thursday. Make sure you get out to the fair and visit the farm animals.
Oh, yeah. And many other things to enjoy at the fair. Any other announcements? Anything else going on? Anything fun and exciting? All right. Date of next meeting will be August 19th, 2025. With that, all business items are concluded. We're adjourned.